Welcome to the Marine Tales of the Supernatural podcast, episode 1. I don't know how many of these are going to do, but I thought I'd do one to explain what the channel's about. Okay, and obviously I was a U.S. Marine back in the 80s, and gives me the foundation to do the stories that I am doing. And what you'll see in my channel are basically, like I said, tales of the supernatural that involve the Marine Corps from my point of view. Now, is it a work of fiction? Is it? I'm not sure. You'll have to judge. No, in all seriousness, I have mixed fact and fiction, and these are not all happy stories. People die in the stories, and although some of the situations are obviously fictional, and I may have changed the name, throughout these stories, I'm actually secretly honoring some Marines that died, during different events that happen in the Marine Corps. Training is dangerous, okay, and it always sucks. It always bothered me that, you do all these things. I think dying in training is probably the worst death a Marine can get, okay. You could argue that you're doing it to protect the country, etc., but it's still a training death, and it feels like a waste. All death, in the end, feels like a waste. I'm a fourth generation Marine, and it probably stops with me. I really don't want my kids going into the Marines after me. Just the way things have gone in the world, I don't want any part of that. My whole family, going back to the late 1800s, is Navy and Marine Corps. So besides the Marines, there's a ton of Navy with an occasional Army person thrown in. And I've had friends in different groups of special forces. I had two friends of mine that were in Delta at the time. A couple Navy SEALs, not relatives but close friends, I grew up in an area where people were military, government contractors, FBI, or CIA. Okay, that's Northern Virginia. Okay, I think my house was 6 miles from Langley back then, and even closer. Once I was older and actually a Marine, my dad had even moved even closer, so my younger brothers were 2 miles from Langley. In Northern Virginia there. So there's a lot of tales I've observed and been part of that were, strange enough. You add a little more supernatural to them and they become really cool. And so over time, if you want to send in, strange stories you or your, relatives have come back to you with, things like, the rock apes in Vietnam that were mysterious, that were orangutans that actually live in, a pack or troop versus what we thought orangutans did. But things like that, ideas that I'll spin into stories. Because right now, I have about 30 tales from the 80s that are actually being published into a book form as well. In fact, I think one of the short stories is actually up on Amazon as a test of how publication goes. But the book is coming soon enough. But here on the podcast part, I'll talk about more background things, maybe read some of the stories aloud, that you can listen to later. But again, sprinkled throughout the stories, when you come across there's something terrible that happens, like i.e. a death or a potential somebody taking their own life, it actually happened at some point somewhere in life. And I may have changed their name, but I know who I'm honoring. And those parts really happen. It's just that I may have moved them into a different scenario. Okay, like for instance, in one of my, I think it's like the third or fourth story, 2 Marines die because they go off a cliff. That actually happened. It wasn't because of a supernatural being. That actually happened during the drug wars where they were killed. And it's written off as an accident, but somebody cut a rope. That's what happened. They weren't thrown off a cliff like in the story, but somebody cut a rope. So it's things like that where, again, I've probably changed names, although sometimes it's maybe a mix, an anagram or whatever of their name that comes back to see. But every death or wounding or, accident type of thing has a root in reality and truth. So, I hope you'll enjoy the stories as they get put out over time. And again, feel free to share a tale with me, and maybe I can turn it into a story. Also, I do shorts sometimes about other people's stories, So If you have a weird tale from your experience in the military, give it to me. I will totally give you credit for it, of who gave this to me. I'm not going to spin it into my own tale. Unless you tell me to, I can incorporate it in a bigger story, or use the idea. But I would like to hear that, because I'm hearing some weird modern tales. And I mean, I saw enough weird crap that was actually real in the Marine Corps that some of those I don't even have to, put a fictional spin on, and I'm not even like covering that in the stories. Like some of the underwater UFOs in Hawaii when I was stationed there, and other UFOs where we're literally seeing our jets take off to chase them. I haven't even written about that because I have no idea, that type of thing. If you have some better experience where there's more info, please let me know. But again, follow this channel. Again, I'll try to do a podcast here and there, maybe drop some audio tales for your enjoyment, something like that. But we'll see how that goes. But I'd like some input from you folks. And as the bigger collections get published, obviously I'll put links in the channel, etc., so that you can go find them. Right now, like I said, the short story, which I'll put a link for that, can be free if you have Kindle Unlimited, or it's 99 cents, and it's a very short introduction story. I think there's 2 more coming to publication, and when I get to like 9 or 10, it's probably going to be a collection that's cheaper, so you can get them all at once. No DRM on them, okay, so you can download them to whatever device you want and keep them on there. I don't believe in really doing that. I want you to share this. This is just something I was started with for fun years ago. Writing these stories and telling them to my daughter, and now it's turned into something else. So hopefully you'll tune in, and we'll see how this goes. But again, share your stories with me, and I'll see you soon. This is James signing off. Take care.